The most successful people in business are incredibly passionate. They always believe that the glass is half full, and they always believe that small groups of people, or one person in general, can beat a massive company. I'll give you many examples in this course. So let's kick it off with passion. The best CEOs and entrepreneurs in the world are the best salespeople, and they're incredibly passionate about what they do. In fact, they don't have a job, they have a passion. And so if you wake up in the morning and tell yourself, I'm going to work today, then I respectfully say that you're doing it wrong. You need to reinvent yourself. You need to find another passion. Don't ever see work as a job, otherwise, you're doing the wrong thing. Life is just too short. So Confucius had this great quote. He said, find an occupation that you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. This has been true for thousands of years. Optimism. The best entrepreneurs in the world are incredibly optimistic as well. And they believe that they can accomplish anything. And many years ago, I sort of disassociated myself with friends of mine that were very negative. I hang out with people and have for decades now that are incredibly positive, that believe that you can accomplish anything in life if you set your mind to it, especially in business. Whether or not you think you can do it or you think you can't, you're right. So a positive attitude is very important in business, and it's crucially important for me to start off this course talking about a positive attitude. Next up, we have small companies win. Small groups of people always are more productive than big groups of people. What do I mean by this? Well, if you look at Amazon.com, the CEO founder Jeff Bezos has this amazing rule that no meeting is allowed to take place at Amazon if you need more than 2 pizzas to feed the people in that meeting. That way you don't have too many chefs or cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. And so in venture capital, with my portfolio companies and the companies I've invested in, I'm never worried about competition from very large technology companies. I'm worried about 2 girls or guys in a garage that start a new business model that obfuscates or disrupts the business model of the company that I've invested in. So small groups of people can change the world. And this has been true since the beginning of time. David, Goliath, etc. Okay, so welcome to an entire MBA in one course. You are going to love this course. I've had the opportunity to teach at some of the best business schools in the world. I have an MBA from a great business school and an undergraduate degree from a great school as well. I've worked in many different industries. I've started companies, and I'm only going to teach you exactly what you need to know to be successful in business. A lot of business really is common sense. It really is. And the stuff that's not common sense quite often is the quantitative stuff, which we'll spend a lot of time on. Don't worry, it's not going to be boring. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. So about me and the way I teach, I try not to use any theory. I try to use real practical experiences I've had, or experiences very successful people that I know have had as well. And so in terms of stuff I'm going to teach you today, it's going to come from my work experience. Having worked at Goldman Sachs, I worked for a very large hedge fund called Citadel. I also work currently for a very prominent venture capital firm here in the Bay Area. And as I mentioned before, I have a couple of degrees, an MBA in finance from Columbia University, and a Bachelor of Commerce degree from McGill University, where I majored in technology and international business. So I'm going to put that stuff together, as well as my consulting work experience at Accenture and a couple of the companies I've started. And I'm going to teach you some of the lessons to make you incredibly successful as well. And so let's talk about a course overview. So I'm only going to teach you stuff that will make you successful in the business world. It's important for me to reinforce that. And you're going to enjoy this course too. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I'm also going to make sure that there is absolutely no theory. The most boring classes I've ever taken in my life are the ones where we covered a lot of theory but didn't do the practical stuff. So I'm going to teach you how to start a company. I'm going to teach you how to raise money. I'm going to teach you how to read financial statements with ease. It's not complicated. It's very easy. I'm also going to teach you how to analyze companies like venture capitalists do, or hedge funds do, or consultants from firms like McKinsey do. And we're going to have fun doing this too. I'm going to teach you how to network like crazy into getting your dream job. We're going to analyze what makes a kick-ass CEO, entrepreneur, or salesperson as well. We'll look at the qualities in terms of what make them very successful. So we're going to analyze the very best from Steve Jobs. We're going to analyze him a lot. Elon Musk, who was the founder of Tesla. Richard Branson, Mark Benioff, Big Papi, Tiger Woods, Meryl Streep, Conan O'Brien, Ronald Reagan, and many business executives. Why did I mention those people? You'll see. Their ability to speak, sell an idea, and communicate with people is one of the reasons why they're successful. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll see later. So we're also going to learn why Facebook bought Instagram and why Mark Zuckerberg is very successful. We're going to learn why you never, ever invest in a technology company if all of the founders have resigned. Now, as you can tell, my background is a little bit more in technology than other industries. And so this course is going to be a little bit slanted towards technology companies, but it's generic enough to help you be successful in business in general. So I'm going to bring Silicon Valley and Wall Street to you as I've worked in both areas. So we're going to have a blast doing this, but a lot of the content from this course is from a book I just published called The Ultimate Practical Business Manual, which is everything you need to know to be successful in business, from launching a company to taking it public. We're going to cover all of that stuff. So in terms of the topics, I'm going to give you useful management analytical frameworks. After every course I took when I did my MBA, I reflected and thought, what is one framework that I can take out of this program and apply to my job or to the real world? I'll share some of the best ones with you, and again, some of the best ones that I've learned in my career as well. I'm going to teach you the best networking skills in the world. I'm going to teach you how to get a meeting with anybody, and I mean anybody. Now, I'm also going to go over legal stuff. It won't be boring, don't worry, and I won't cover too much of it. I'll just teach you the legal stuff you need to know to be successful in business and nothing more. I'm going to talk about how to value a company. It's very easy, and it's a lot of fun using Excel. We're going to talk about turnarounds. What do you do when your company is having issues? What is Chapter 11? Do turnarounds work? Chapter 11 is amazing. It can help save your company and a lot of your personal assets as well. I'll cover that way, way later. We're going to talk a lot about venture capital. I'm currently a venture capitalist, so it's a lot of fun for me to talk about what I currently do. We're going to talk about hedge funds. I spent a number of years working in the hedge fund industry, working for Citadel. And I'm going to teach you the real purpose of investment banking and how it works. Now, a lot of my students at the universities I teach at want to go into investment banking after they graduate, and I caution them about this. Only do it if you're absolutely passionate about investment banking. Don't ever do anything in life just to chase money. Otherwise, I promise you, you'll be incredibly unsuccessful and unhappy. Do what you're passionate about in life, and I promise you the money will follow. We'll cover that in more detail later. I'm going to teach you how to present with passion, right from the heart, so you never have to read a script. And if you're nervous, you don't have to be. I will teach you how to get around that as well, because you're never as nervous as you feel. I'm going to teach you about business ethics quite a bit, actually, because it takes 20 years to create a reputation of yourself, and literally 20 seconds or less with internet technologies now to destroy it. So again, we're going to talk about how to network, how to get meetings with anybody. I'm going to teach you how to create an amazing business plan. And so our journey begins here. Okay, so on this chart, you'll see on the x-axis is time. On the y-axis is the size of the firm. The size of the firm goes from small to medium to too big firm. I think big firms are very bureaucratic and can't innovate, and we'll talk about that later. On the x-axis, you'll see time, and we're going to talk about the entire life cycle of a company, from birth to harvest, meaning when you take it public, or death, or when to shut it down, or when to turn it around, and how that works. And so we're going to kick off this session with talking about how to raise money from friends and family. And the first stage of investing or starting a company is called the angel or seed round. And again, I'll provide much more information on that throughout this course. The end of our journey will be there. after year 30 or year 40. Don't worry, I won't make the course that long. But you'll see what happens to a company at that stage when revenue growth slows and is stagnant, and what you should do at that point. And so we'll talk about the entire life cycle of a company, again, from raising money in years 0 to 1 from angel or seed investors, and I'll explain what that means. In year 2 to 3, you'll get venture capital financing from Sequoia in this hypothetical example. Sequoia is the best venture capital firm in the world. And then in years 3 and 4, we'll approach another venture capital firm from a hypothetical perspective called Kleiner Perkins, which is also awesome. And then years 5 to 6, we'll work with a debt firm called Silicon Valley Bank, and we'll do one last stage of financing from an amazing company called Meritech. And then in the green stage, in years 7 to 8, when revenue growth is actually slowing, that's when you go public, right? So when revenue growth is accelerating, you stay private. When it's still positive but decelerating, that's when you go public. And we're going to work with Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs in this hypothetical life cycle of a company scenario. And I'm going to teach you exactly how an IPO works. And I'm going to make it really easy to understand because I've worked at Goldman Sachs. I worked there for 5 years. I understand how the whole process works. You'll enjoy it. I'll make it fun as well. And then the last stage where you see the shark is years 30 to 40, or it could be years 20 to 30. And that's when growth is stagnant. It's when the company's not growing anymore at all. And so there's blood in the water, so to speak. And at that point, we'll talk about how to take a company private. We'll work with KKR, which is the best private equity firm in the world. Again, it's a hypothetical example here, but you'll love it. We'll also talk about how to turn your company around, if it can be turned around, and what filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy means and why it is awesome. And most companies that file for bankruptcy actually come out on top. Okay, so I'll cover that much later in the session. So there's 15 different classes that I'm going to teach, 15 sessions, and they correspond to one chapter in the book I wrote. So the book has 15 chapters. And so we'll kick it off with launching a company, and then we'll end it with turnarounds and alternative investment strategies for your company. And then there's a section that's very, very important. It's called Class 15 or Chapter 15, and that's called leftover content. And it's all the stuff that I didn't cover in chapters 1 to 14 that I think is incredibly important to make you successful in business. And I'll talk about the mistakes I've made in my career as well. I'm a very humble guy. I'm from Canada originally. Proud to be Canadian, but I think my Canadian roots have kept me somewhat humble. But anyway, we'll go through that, the takeaways, best practices that I've had in my career, and the mistakes I've made too, and the mistakes I've seen from working for people that should not be managing people. I've worked for great people, but also people that should not be managing people. So more details on that later. Okay, so let's begin.